Do you consider yourself a person with common sense? I know I do. Hello again, everyone. I'm Eli's dad with Project Eli, where we educate, lead, and inspire. And clearly we have a couple of different factions at play here as regards to this pandemic issue. And one of the things that puzzles me, and I was talking to a buddy of mine, and he's a smart guy. He went to Harvard, all right, which doesn't necessarily make him smart, but he's smart. And you know, one of the things he said to me was, Eli's dad, I don't understand why people don't get it. And he said, I think it's because they're uneducated. Okay, well, I can't believe that people are uneducated. But it does puzzle me why what's common sense to me is not common sense to somebody else. And so I've been looking at that, and I came across an interview by Dr. Tom Nichols, the author of The Death of Expertise. And I want to share with you some of his thoughts, and they kind of made some really good sense to me as to why we have such differing and opposing points of view. One of the things that the doctor talked about was a term called tribalism, okay, where if you belong to a particular organization, your loyalty tends to be to that particular organization more, and it becomes more important than the facts. Now, I'm an American history major, American history teacher, I was anyway, and I can tell you one thing about the Founding Fathers. When you talk about freedom, freedom comes to us with responsibilities. We have the protesters out there, especially the ones with guns. Now keep in mind, I'm a child of the 60s and 70s, so I'm not averse to protesting. As a matter of fact, I took part in a few protests myself in high school against the Vietnam War. But the point is, these people have nihilism, which and for those of you that aren't good with the dictionary like I'm not, nihilism is the rejection of all religious and moral principles in the belief that life is meaningless. It's saying, hey, I can do anything I want. You are not the boss of me. Now, when I last heard that? I last heard that when Eli was still a puppy, and I asked him to do something and he didn't want to do it. And he said, hey, you're not the boss of me. Okay, well, his backside taught him otherwise ultimately, all right? But it's the way children understand freedom. We're not children anymore. What do children say? I'm doing it even if it's bad for me because I can do it. I have the freedom. Now, it's not un-American or unpatriotic to follow the advice of experts. We had rationing in World War II, and we submitted to the draft in World War I, World War II, Korea, Vietnam. The American thing is that you explain to me as a voter why we're doing these things, and then I'll accept your expertise. Now, somehow, people are thinking that doctors, and I'm talking about the experts here, don't have an interest in us getting better. Why and how? Well, it's the result of social media ramping up a message among a small group of people who have an outsized impact on the public mind. See, somebody like me, who's not a social media, for lack of a better term, animal or constituent, let's use constituent, that's a better word, constituent, doesn't realize the power of social media. But you know what? I'm starting to realize it more and more right about now. For instance, think of it like this. Years ago, there was one person in each town that would say, you know what? We didn't really land a man on the moon, but because there were hundreds of people all around him that, we saw it on TV and we believed it and so on, all his speeches were virtually ignored. But now, social media is allowing that person to unite with the one person in the next town, and in the next town, and they're creating a voice. And repetition means retention. That's a universal law, by the way. Repetition means retention. When those people's numbers grow, they become a resource for political power. Now here's another factor that feeds into this pandemic of narcissism. By the way, once again, those of you without a dictionary, narcissism is a disorder in which a person has an inflated sense of self-importance. Now years ago, doctors told us that both eggs, they told us that at one time, they told us that butter at another time, wasn't very, very good for your heart, that you needed to cut down. You could use it in moderation, all right, but if you OD on it, it's not going to be good for your heart. Then, a few years later, based on some other studies, they reversed that stance. And when they did that, a lot of people couldn't wait to say, "Ah, you're the expert. Gotcha." Now that doesn't mean that your doctor is not an expert on heart health, that he or she doesn't know more than you know. But it does give permission to the layperson to cast doubt on everything that the expert says if it's not congruent with their personal philosophy. So what's the solution? It's time for the experts to stand up and speak with significantly more volume and with significantly more clarity, repeatedly, because repetition means retention. And because we never end a meeting on a philosophical note, let's all get out there and charge! I'm Eli's dad.